Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hi guys, this is Shahadat, and today I'm going to review this video where this professor, apparently professor of endocrinology, he talked about the ketogenic diet. And listening to the whole video, what I realized that he probably is not really trained in ketogenic diet, and I don't understand why he even wanted to talk about it. Now, on the other side, on the other hand, me, you can see my certificate. I have completed the Advanced Ketogenic Nutrition Training from American Nutrition Association, and this particular training, which was like 6 months long training, was designed for medical doctors to learn about ketogenic diet and various aspects of it. So, um, based on my knowledge on this topic, what I realized that this video was actually spewing lies and misinformation. So I had to make a review. Now, before I did make a review in Bengali, but then after the video was published, lots of medical doctors from my country, they claimed that had I recorded the video in English, I would be taken to prison and I would be punished rightly for my crimes against humanity and stuff like that. So I decided to record this time the same video in English, and I'm going to go through the evidence basically a little bit more, I guess, and show you that this particular professor here, a gentleman, his name is Dr. Shahjada Selim, he basically lied through his teeth all the way through. Anyway, so without any further delay or any further ado, let's get into the video. I've turned the what do you call subtitle on and in English so that you can see what he is saying. The subtitle is Google generated, auto generated basically. So, but I think you will get an idea of what he is trying to say. If you are not a Bengali speaker, please just look at the subtitle and try to understand what he is saying. Let's start.
আমি ডাক্তার শাহজাদা সেলিম সহযোগী অধ্যাপক হিসেবে কর্মরত আছি বঙ্গবন্ধু শেখ মুজিব মেডিকেল বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ের এন্ডোক্রাইনোলজি বিভাগে। মেডিলাইফ মিডিয়ার সকল দর্শক শ্রোতাকে স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি। সাম্প্রতিক বছরগুলোতে আপনারা হয়তো অনেকেই দেখেছেন, কেউ কেউ হয়তো নিজেদের আত্মীয় স্বজন বন্ধু বান্ধবদেরও অভিজ্ঞতা বা নিজের অভিজ্ঞতাও আছে হয়তো কিটো ডায়েট নিয়ে। কিটো ডায়েট কি আগে সেটি বলে নেই। সাধারণত একজন মানুষের যাদের ডায়াবেটিস নেই তাদের শরীরের প্রতিদিনের যে চাহিদা তা পূরণ করার জন্য শর্করা জাতীয় খাদ্য থেকে 40% বেশি ক্যালোরি আসবে, 20 থেকে 30% ক্যালোরি আসবে প্রোটিন জাতীয় খাবার থেকে, 30% কম আসবে চর্বি জাতীয় খাবার। কোনো কারণে
As you just saw, that he basically claimed that if you're a person without apparently any disease, or a healthy person, as we say normally, or normal human being who is not diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or anything like that, any chronic disease, for that person, he should consume 40% carbohydrate foods, and then 30% protein and 30% from fat and stuff. So that's his claim. I don't know where he got that from, even though he claimed to be a professor. I didn't find the professor like attitude where they try to produce the evidence before making any claims. So, which was interesting, but there you go. So, he suggested for a normal human being, you need 40% carbohydrate, 30% protein, and 30% fat. I don't know where he got that from. Okay, now let's see what he says after that.
কারণে যদি এই কার্বোহাইড্রেট বা শর্করা জাতীয় খাবারকে কমিয়ে ফেলা হয় এবং প্রোটিন জাতীয় খাবারকে বাড়িয়ে দেওয়া হয় তখন কিন্তু ক্রমশ এটি কিটো ডায়েটের দিকে যাবে। কিন্তু কিটো ডায়েট বলতে সরাসরি যদি ডেফিনেশন বলি সেটা হবে এখানে শর্করা জাতীয় খাদ্য থেকে ক্যালোরি আসছে 5% কম। এটি কিন্তু ভয়ানকতম।
So he's saying that the ketogenic diet is when you restrict your carbohydrate consumption to below 5%. And the next thing he's saying, this is a terrible number. This is a terrible thing to do. Okay, let's see why.
একটি সংখ্যা, কারণ 10% কম গেলেই এটি কিন্তু মৃত্যু ঝুঁকি বাড়াবে। কিন্তু
So he says if you take it below 10%, if you don't consume at least 10% carbohydrate, this will be deadly. Interestingly, I don't know where he got that from either. It's a claim, And for any claim, you need to basically back it up with evidence, with scientific research. But looks like he is not providing any. And 10%, where did you get that number from? But anyway, let's move forward.
যাদের ডায়াবেটিস আছে তাদের ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু 50 থেকে 60% শর্করা থেকে ক্যালোরি আসতে হবে। এখন
Did you hear that? What he basically said that if you are a diabetic patient, people, I mean type 2 diabetic, in this particular case, he's talking about type 2 diabetics. So a type 2 diabetic who whose biggest problem is that his blood sugar or their blood sugar is uncontrolled. So every time they eat something sugary, their blood sugar shoots up and it doesn't come down or come back to normal within the acceptable time limit. So that's the problem. And he's saying that those people should consume 50 to 60% of their calories from carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, after digestion, will become sugar in their blood. I don't know where he got that from, and I don't understand how an endocrinologist in his right mind can say something like that. So, without evidence, and then how does it make sense? Type 2 diabetic patient, he is suffering from the problem where his blood sugar is uncontrolled. So, I mean, even an idiot would understand that a person whose blood sugar is high and whose body cannot deal with his blood sugar anymore should really stay away from sugary foods so that the body doesn't have to deal with sugar, right? I mean, that sounds like common sense, but looks like he doesn't really have that. And he's a professor.
কিটো ডায়েট কেন জনপ্রিয় হয়েছিল আর বাংলাদেশে কেন ব্যবহার হচ্ছে সেই পরিপ্রেক্ষিতে বলি। আগে আমি একটু ইন্টারেস্টিং গল্প বলে নেই। জার্মানিতে এই নাৎসি বাহিনী হিটলারের নেতৃত্বে যে ধ্বংসযজ্ঞ চালিয়েছিল, তো সেখানে মৃত্যুর জন্য ৩টি পন্থা বেছে নিত। এক গ্রুপকে কনসেন্ট্রেশন ক্যাম্পে রেখে নির্যাতন করে মারা হতো, এক গ্রুপকে সরাসরি গুলি বা ফাঁসি করে মারা হতো, কিন্তু যাদেরকে তিলে তিলে মারা হবে তাদেরকে এই কিটো ডায়েট খাওয়ানো হতো। তো
Did you hear that? He basically claimed that in Nazi Germany, in the concentration camps, when people were basically destined, or they wanted people to, or the prisoners to die in a painful way, they were given a ketogenic diet. And I was completely gobsmacked because I have done a 6 months long training course on ketogenic diet, and that never appeared in my course material anywhere. So I was curious. I wanted to find out where he got that information from. And what I did is I went to Google and I tried to search for the diet of the prisons or the camps, the um, concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And this is the first result that I got. It's from Auschwitz.org, which basically is the organization. It's a memorial and museum. So they talk about the prisoners of Auschwitz. And this particular page is dedicated to explain their nutrition. And let me read. You can see it, but let me read it just for the sake of because if you're watching on a mobile phone, you will probably not be able to read it. So let me read it from the top. It said, "Quote: Prisoners received 3 meals per day. In the morning, they received only half a liter of coffee, or rather boiled water with grain-based coffee substitute added, or tea, a herbal brew. These beverages were usually unsweetened. The noon meal consisted of about a liter of soup, the main ingredients of which were potatoes. Potato, to my best knowledge, is a carbohydrate. Uh, then rutabaga and small amounts of groats, rye flour, and Evo food extract. I didn't see meat anywhere in that. High protein, no, it doesn't look like high protein. Next, they said the soup was unappetizing and newly arrived prisoners were often unable to eat it or could do so only in disgust. Supper consisted of about 300 grams of black bread served with about 25 grams of sausage or margarine or a tablespoon of marmalade or cheese. The bread was served in the evening. The bread served in the evening was supposed to cover the needs of the following morning as well, although the famished prisoners usually consumed the whole portion at once. The low nutritional value of these meals should be noted. uh, According to Auschwitz, they don't know about any ketogenic diet being applied to these prisoners. But okay, probably one source is not enough. Let me go to another source. This is another website, Auschwitz.net, dedicated for the same purpose. And there they again are talking about the diet of Auschwitz prisoners. And in there, on this particular website, what they're saying is, quote, in Auschwitz, as in the rest of the German Nazi concentration and extermination camps, hunger was chronic and ubiquitous, being the first reason of the drop in life expectancy to a few weeks or months. So basically, what they're saying is hunger and chronic hunger basically was the tool. So these people were actually starved to death. Starvation doesn't sound like keto diet to me. And um, if you did a basic research on ketogenic diet, you would know that ketogenic diet is not starvation in any way, shape, or form. For although there was officially a balanced menu for prisoners, this had nothing to do with the food distributed in the canteen at Auschwitz. So there was in document there was a diet, balanced diet for the prisoners, but they didn't really follow that. Okay, now let's go to the Nobel Peace Center. Let's see what they say about the Hitler's hunger plan. And as you can see here, they made it quite bold and big. What they're saying is, quote, starvation was a central strategy in the Nazi genocide against the Jews. Hitler had long been aware of the power that lay in controlling the food. So, in this article, in this website, they are claiming the same thing. We didn't find the use of ketogenic diet anywhere, but he did tell us a lovely story, right? Probably made it up or something like that. He just somebody told him, and he just didn't. He was not bothered to really cross-check whether the information was valid before publishing it on a YouTube video, which is accessible by everybody, anybody and everybody. Quite irresponsible, right? I think it is.
সেটাই কিন্তু আমরা অনেকেই বেছে নিচ্ছি। আমি এই ঘটনার সাথে এটি তুলনা করছি এই কারণে যে পৃথিবীর সর্বশ্রেষ্ঠতম চিকিৎসা গবেষণা জার্নাল ল্যান্সেট, আরেকটি হলো নিউ ইংল্যান্ড জার্নাল অফ মেডিসিন, দুটাতেই প্রকাশিত তথ্য হলো এরকম, যাদের 12 বছরের বেশি দিন যাবৎ কিটো ডায়েট
So basically, he's now talking about. He basically claimed that in the best journal in the world called the Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine. These are, there are two. So how can they? Okay, one is best. Probably the next one is second best. So they published papers claiming that ketogenic diet is really dangerous. That's what basically he's trying to say. Now he's going to give some more details, and when I get the details, I realize that he's basically lying through his teeth. But let's watch him do that.
খেয়েছেন, এরকম 10 লক্ষ মানুষকে নিয়ে তারা গবেষণা করে দেখেছেন যে এই কিটো
They studied 1 million people who had been on the keto diet for more than 12 years. That's basically what he said. And to my best knowledge, there isn't a study in the world that did that. So, based on this criteria, you can search and you will not find a study where 1 million people were on ketogenic diet for 12 years, and then they found, he's going to give us the result now.
ডায়েট কারো কারো ক্ষেত্রে ক্যান্সারের ঝুঁকি বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছে 34%, হৃদরোগের ঝুঁকি বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছে প্রায় 55%, মৃত্যু ঝুঁকি বাড়িয়ে দিয়েছে 32%। তাহলে
So, cancer risk 34% increased, CVD risk, death risk basically 55% increment, and all cause mortality is 32%, which is quite interesting a claim. But because, as I said, there is no such study ever done in the world where 1 million people followed a ketogenic diet for 12 years, these are basically lies.
এই যে এই চরম মারাত্মক কিছু তথ্য আমাদের সামনে আছে, এটির পরিপ্রেক্ষিতে কি আমি আর ভেবে নিতে পারি যে কারো জন্য কিটো ডায়েট ভালো হবে?
So, based on his imaginary data, he is saying that based on this data, can we really recommend the ketogenic diet for anybody? Now, let me show you the closest study that was published in the um, Lancet journal. This is the paper. Dietary carbohydrate, I mean, the title of the paper is Dietary Carbohydrate Intake and Mortality, a Prospective Cohort Study and Meta-Analysis. Now, as soon as you read the title, you realize that this is a epidemiological observational study. It is not an experimental study. So basically, they just got data from some source, and then they did mathematical analysis, statistical analysis of the data, and then they kind of like came up with guesses, best guesses, what they think affected the uh, lives of the people in the study. Now, how many people are we talking about? In this study, they studied 15,428 adults aged between 45 to 64 years, and in 4 US communities. Only 4 US communities, only in USA, who completed the dietary questionnaire enrollment in the atherosclerosis risk in communities study. So the data was basically borrowed from another study. Okay, so and then they followed their uh, process, the method of analysis, and then they came up with the conclusion. Their finding was that they followed the people for 25 years, and there were 6,283 deaths in these 25 years in the ARIC cohort, and there are 40,181 deaths across all cohort studies. It's because it was like a meta-analysis as well, so they analyzed some more data from other what I call sources, and then they said, where is the result? This fly. Okay, so here we see that the, where is it? People, both the low carbohydrate consumption and high carbohydrate consumption showed some risk according to their calculation. Obviously, this is not an experimental study, so you cannot be sure. This is just a guess. So, educated guess, you can call it, but guess nonetheless. So, they said they saw an increase in mortality by 1.32 for low carbohydrate consumption, and 1.23 to 1.36, which is for high carbohydrate consumption. So if you had more than 70%, your risk increased, say, maximum by 36%. And if you had less than 40%, your increase was about 32%. And however, result varied by the source of macronutrient. Excuse me, I've been talking for a long time, so now I'm having some problems in my throat. Mortality increased when carbohydrates were exchanged for animal-derived fat or protein, and mortality decreased when substitutions were plant-based. So these were their guesses. Okay, now, and I guess this is the study I guess this is the study this guy was trying to refer to. And obviously, you see that nobody really ran an experiment with 1 million people doing ketogenic diet. My goodness, who's calling me at this time? I cannot take the call now, sorry. And so the interpretation that they said is high carb and low carb both are dangerous. Now, in this paper, if you read the paper carefully, then you find another study. Where is it? Here. They basically used data from another study, which is here. And that study suggested that when you increase your carb consumption, your death risk actually increases. But they were not very confident about the decrease in carbohydrate consumption. They didn't make a comment on that. So when this study was part of the study that he is referring to, he should have just followed the reference and checked the study out. Now, I did that, and what I found is this study. Uh, my goodness, everybody is trying to call me at the same time. Right. Now, this study is called Association of Fats and Carbohydrate Intake with Cardiovascular Disease and Mortality in 18 countries from 5 continents, which is called the PURE study, a prospective cohort study. So, in terms of methodology, it's the same kind of methodology, but the good thing about this study is that this study was conducted in 18 different countries in the world and in 5 continents. So it has the data quality obviously is better than just US and 4 communities in the US. And the other thing is that this study, the data was, or the answers to the questionnaire were actually verified. Example is um, people claim that they eat this much salt every day. And the scientists then requested the people to come in the morning with the first pea that they had and give it to the lab so the lab can figure out exactly how much salt is there in their urine. So, based on that, they could verify if the person was actually giving the correct information or not. So, the data is actually far more reliable, and their interpretation of their data was that, quote, high carbohydrate intake was associated with higher risk of total mortality, whereas total fat and individual types of fat were related to lower total mortality. Total fat and types of fat were not associated with cardiovascular disease, myocardial infarction, or cardiovascular disease mortality, whereas saturated fat had an inverse association with stroke. Global dietary guidelines should be reconsidered in light of these findings. So, as you see, that they didn't talk about the low carb affecting our mortality. Excuse me. Um, I've been talking for a long time, so I'm now coughing. But if you, I mean, had you read this paper, then the interpretation of this study, you would be actually a little bit suspicious, or you would be cautious to just take it for granted, right? But this particular gentleman doesn't seem to have done that. So he doesn't really know how to read research papers, even. And interestingly, at the bottom of this paper, and if you look at the comments section, where is it? I can see the comments here. It was in the PubMed interface. There were comments where other scientists actually reanalyzed their data and they basically came to the conclusion that their interpretation was not really reliable. So, um, so this is a study that you cannot rely on at all. And our uh, professor is basically using that data with some imaginary numbers and claiming that ketogenic diet is so deadly because of the numbers he made up.
তাহলে কারা কিটো ডায়েটে গেলেন, কেন গেলেন? কারণ হলো যে এই ডায়াবেটিসের রোগীদের 90% দৈহিক ওজন বেশি। ডায়াবেটিস নেই, ডায়াবেটিসের ঝুঁকি আছে, তারা কিন্তু অনেক বেশি ওজনের। এবং ডায়াবেটিসের আমরা হয়তো মেপে দেখেছি ঝুঁকি অতটা পাওয়া যায়নি, কিন্তু দৈহিক ওজন এমন যে কমানোটা জরুরি। এই গ্রুপের মানুষরাই কিন্তু কিটো ডায়েটের দিকে যাচ্ছেন, কারণ এখানে মানে শক্তির উৎস শর্করা এত বেশি কমিয়ে ফেলা হচ্ছে, ওজন কিন্তু কমবেই কিন্তু।
So he basically claimed that the carbohydrate is basically the source of energy for our body, which is again not true. I don't understand how an endocrinologist, a professor of endocrinology, doesn't know that our body can burn fat for fuel and our body can survive on fat indefinitely, and our body is designed to survive without us consuming any carbohydrate ever at all. I don't understand why he doesn't know that, which was quite shocking to me actually. But he's not the only one. There are other endocrinologists who claim the same thing, who use the same study to say the same things. Looks like they have all got together and decided that that's what we are going to talk about. We are not going to listen to anybody else. And because we are professors, obviously people are going to listen to us. The sad reality of this attitude is that people are dying. People are more and more people are getting diabetes and other metabolic diseases, and finally they are dying. They are dying early. And a medical doctor like him, these endocrinologists, idiots, they are the ones responsible for this epidemic of diabetes in our country, in the world, really. So I don't know. It makes me very angry, and that's why I can use words like idiots and uh, okay, let's not use the others. Probably that'll be censored by YouTube or something. Anyway, let's listen to his what he has to say next.
কিন্তু এটি কিন্তু কমছে আয়ুর বিনিময়ে। তো কেউ কেউ ভাবেন যে আমি 3 মাসে 30 কেজি কমিয়ে ফেলবো, পারছেন কিন্তু, কিন্তু 3 মাসের আগেই উনি আর নড়তে চড়তে পারেন না।
So he thinks if you do ketogenic diet, you will lose weight, and then you will not be able to do anything at all. You'll become stationary in bed. You will lose all your strength. I've been doing a low carb version, not the exact ketogenic diet, for quite a long time, and I know people who do follow the ketogenic diet quite religiously. They seem to be doing okay. And I have read studies that were conducted, like experimental studies conducted by people like Professor Stephen Finney, Dr. Jeff Volek, Professor Eric Westman of Duke University. He's a doctor as well. Dr. Stephen Finney is a doctor as well, medical doctor. And they think it's healthy diet. And this professor thinks it is dangerous, and he hasn't actually conducted any research on ketogenic diet ever, and he hasn't done a training on ketogenic diet ever, and now we have to rely on his opinion. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense to me.
এদের মধ্যে আমাদের একটি অভিজ্ঞতার কথা বলি। বাংলাদেশের একটি বিখ্যাত হাসপাতালের আইসিইউতে একই সাথে 6 জন ভর্তি হলেন, যারা অন্য ওষুধ বন্ধ করে কিটো ডায়েটের শরণাপন্ন হয়েছিলেন, এবং অবস্থা এতই খারাপ যে ওনাকে আইসিইউতে নিতে হয়েছে। কিন্তু
I think this is quite shameful for a medical doctor to say these sort of things in a video publicly accessible, because what he claims there is he knows of 6 people who came to the hospital at the same time because they were doing ketogenic diet, and so their health deteriorated so badly that they were taken to the ICU. And what evidence have you got to support that claim? Did you really check what they were eating? Were they part of a experimental study or something? No, they just came and said, "Oh, we were doing ketogenic diet." If somebody comes and say, "Doctor, I have got cancer," are you going to immediately give them chemotherapy? I hope not.
উনি কিন্তু বুঝতে পারেন, এবং একসময় কিন্তু সবাই ছেড়ে দিচ্ছেন। 1 মাস, 2 মাস, 3 মাস, 4 মাস পরে ছেড়ে দিচ্ছেন, কারণ উনি দেখছেন যে প্রায় আমি মৃত্যুর অভিজ্ঞতা পাচ্ছি, নড়তে পারছি না, কোনো কাজ করতে পারছি না। তাহলে এই ওজন কমানোর জন্য এই চটকদার কোনো পদ্ধতিতে যাওয়া কিন্তু এটা মৃত্যুকে আলিঙ্গন করারই শামিল। আবার কেউ কেউ ভাবছেন যে ওনার ইনসুলিন লাগতো, কিটো ডায়েটে গিয়ে আমি ইনসুলিন বাদ দিয়ে চলতে পারবো। উনি কিন্তু কিছুদিন পারবেন না, কিন্তু এরপরে ওনাকে কিন্তু আবারও অজ্ঞান অবস্থায় অথবা আইসিইউতে নিতে হয়েছে। সেই অবস্থাতে গিয়ে কিটো ডায়েট বন্ধ করতে হচ্ছে। বাংলাদেশে আমরা বহু রোগী পাচ্ছি এরকম। আর সারা পৃথিবীর যে অভিজ্ঞতা সেটা তো আমি বললাম।
Now, based on my training, I can tell you, Professor, that you are absolutely, completely, utterly wrong. If a type 2 diabetic patient follows a ketogenic diet properly, after learning about the ketogenic diet and administer it properly, they will actually get rid of their insulin in the first week or maybe 15 days, 2 weeks, and then they will get rid of some of the other medications as well. And as long as they stay on the ketogenic diet, their diabetes will never return and their blood sugar will stay normal and it will not fluctuate. You don't know that because you haven't read these studies. You don't know the people who conducted these studies. They are medical doctors as well. They are professors as well. They're still alive. If you want, I can put you in touch with them. But looks like you haven't done your research properly and you're just lying in front of the lay people. Shameful, really shameful.
তাহলে বাংলাদেশের মানুষের জন্য কিটো ডায়েট সম্পর্কে আমাদের অবস্থান কি হবে? একটি ক্ষেত্রে শুধু কিটো ডায়েট আমরা অল্প কিছুদিনের জন্য এখনো গ্রহণ করতে পারি, সেটি হলো যাদের এপিলেপসি বা মৃগী রোগ আছে, ওষুধ দিয়ে ভালো ফলাফল পাওয়া যাচ্ছে না। ওষুধের সাথে যদি আমি কয়েকদিনের জন্য কিটো ডায়েট চালাই, ফলাফল কিন্তু ভালো। এই গ্রুপের মানুষ রোগী বাদে আর কারো জন্যই কিটো ডায়েট মোটেও ভালো নয়। তো আপনি এই অল্প দিনে বেশি ভালো ফল পেতে গিয়ে মৃত্যুর স্বাদ নিবেন, এটি তো মানে চরম আত্মঘাতী একটি ব্যবস্থা হবে। এটি কিন্তু কোনো সুস্থ মানুষ সুস্থ মস্তিষ্কে ভেবেচিন্তে করবেন, এটি কিন্তু করা উচিত হবে না। কিন্তু তাহলে যারা করছে তারা কিভাবে করছে? তারা কিন্তু কেউ বিজ্ঞাপন দেখে আসছে, কেউ এই তথ্যের ভিত্তিতে আসছে, কিন্তু আপনি খোঁজ নিলেই দেখবেন কেউ কিন্তু শেষ পর্যন্ত লেগে থাকতে পারেনি। কারণ যাদের এক গ্রুপ মৃত্যুবরণ করবেন, আরেক গ্রুপ তার আগেই নিজের অবস্থা এত খারাপ হবে যে উনি কিন্তু বাধ্য হয়ে এটিকে ত্যাগ করেছেন। আমি
I mean, there is no point of me basically showing you the rest of the video, but I just want to show you the claims that he's making without any actually evidence, which basically goes to show that he is absolutely, I shouldn't say absolutely ignorant, but he is quite ignorant about the concept of ketogenic diet and how it affects human health. There is a medical textbook now called Ketogenic, the science of, let me check the name. I can find it now. But if you look for the ketogenic medical textbook, you will find it. The book was published in 2023. And then there was a whole year, 2024. And now we are in 2025. And our professor is not probably aware of that book at all. And he's an endocrinologist, an expert about ketogenic diet. Let me show you the rest of the uh, funny lies he's spewing.
আমি তাহলে আবারও সকলকে অনুরোধ করব যে বিজ্ঞান ভিত্তিক গবেষণার যে ফলাফল আমাদের কাছে আছে সেটিকে বিবেচনা করে আপনি সিদ্ধান্ত নেবেন। আপনি নিজেও ইন্টারনেটে ভালো ভালো মেডিকেল জার্নাল ঘাটাঘাটি করে দেখতে
I've done that, and I found you to lie. You are a liar.
পারেন যে কোনটা কতটুকু ভালো। কিন্তু আমি সারাংশটুকু বলে দিলাম। তাহলে কিটো ডায়েট আমাদের শত্রু বা মিত্র, তাহলে আমি কোনভাবে নিব? এটি ভয়ানকতর শত্রু। শুধু
It's a terrible enemy of human civilization, of human beings. Ketogenic diet, oh my god, it's like a monster.
একটি ক্ষেত্রে বলেছি, খুব সামান্য কারো কারো ক্ষেত্রে মৃগ রোগীর ক্ষেত্রে লাভ হতে পারে যদি ওষুধ দিয়ে কাজ না হয়, সেই ক্ষেত্রে সেটির ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু কয়েক সপ্তাহ চালানো হয়, পরে বন্ধ করে দেওয়া হয়।
He doesn't even understand or know about that as well. So, okay. I mean, given the fact that he's so ignorant about this diet and he has got such a negative view about it, which is not based on any science or anything, his own perception, I don't know why he doesn't like ketogenic diet. One reason could be if ketogenic diet cures or treats or basically helps people manage their disease, he will probably not get as many patients as he does now. So that seems to be conflict of interest for me. I don't know if that's true, but I don't see a reason why he would just go on lying about the ketogenic diet unless it benefits him somehow.
আর কারো জন্য এটিকে আমরা গ্রহণ করতে পারবো সেটি নয়। তাহলে খাবার একটি গুরুত্বপূর্ণ বিষয় সুস্থতার জন্য, চিকিৎসার জন্য। কিন্তু আপনি কি খাবেন, আপনার জন্য ভালো কোনটা খারাপ কোনটা, এটি কিন্তু আপনাকে বুঝতে হবে, আর চিকিৎসক আপনাকে সাহায্য করবে।
He thinks the doctors, his physician, will be uh, the patient's friend. The physician makes money from the patient. If the patient stays unhealthy for a long time, the physician makes more money. Hmm. Yeah, that makes both of them like really close friends. Yeah, the physician definitely wants the patient to get better. Okay.
সকলে সুস্থ থাকবেন, ভালো থাকবেন।
So that was it. This is my English version of the review of this terrible video full of lies and lies and lies. Um, so yeah, I'm going to publish it, and please let me know your thoughts on this particular topic. I'll see you later, probably in my next video or something. Take care. Bye bye.